Hello, I have Giacomo from Switzerland here. Hi, Giacomo.
Hi guys, how you doing?
How are you?
Very good, very good. And yourself?
Good, good. But how is the situation with coronavirus in Switzerland?
So far so good. We hang in there, and I think the last weeks were probably the most difficult ones. Now the situation is probably like in many other countries, getting better and better. Of course, there are still new cases, so people still need to bear in mind the protections to follow rules and everything. But we have seen just a slight improvement in the numbers. So hopefully things will get better quite soon, and everybody can resume their normal life and going back out and do normal things.
That's a very good information that the numbers are getting better. But what about the government measures? Can you go outside as much as you wish, or are there any restrictions?
So I think we have been. I think the Swiss government has applied, let's say, a more probably soft or softer approach than other countries surrounding Switzerland. But I think the reason why is because the government has really deep understanding and has trust in the people of Switzerland. So they know that people will follow rules even though they are not that strict. So in fact, there are really no very strict measures. People can still go out. Technically, the only limitation, if I'm not mistaken, is that people cannot gather more than in 5 people per group. So the groups need to be less than 5 people. And the rest really just a lot of good publicity and information on prevention measures, what to do in terms of like keeping the distance, wearing masks, and things like that. But um, as a strict rules, for example, like in Italy or in France or other countries, Switzerland is probably has adopted a more a softer approach from this point of view.
Mhm. So you don't need to wear any mask unless you really want to, and um, nobody is checking when you are outside. Why are you outside? No,
Not really, not at this stage. As I said, I mean, I think people anyway tend to wear masks for their own protection. So despite there is no strict rules on this, people still try to follow this as a sort of informal or soft rule. So when you go grocery shopping, you can really see many people anyway wearing masks or gloves. And in the supermarkets, there is probably there are a slight stricter control on the number of people in the supermarket. Only a certain number can get in. They still need to be a certain distance, for example, at the cashier desk. So you people cannot be cramped all at the cashier desk. They need to have certain distance between one another. So I think all in all is not too bad. Of course, as I said, then majority will stays home also because schools are closed anyway. So I think until end of April, at this point, schools are closed, so most of the people need to be home, and therefore the even let's say the chances to go out are much lower.
hmm And can people go abroad, or are the borders closed?
So that's probably a bit more complicated. I think the first limitation actually comes from the fact that most of the airlines no longer have basically flights. So that's clearly a per se limitation of going and traveling. People trying to come to Switzerland unless they are Swiss or they have a permit or a visa already in place, they cannot. So they would be stopped either at the border or the airport, and they would not be let in. But so I would say, in terms of traveling, yes, maybe there are a little bit more restrictions for non-Swiss or non-visa or permit holder, and anyway, I think limitations, as I said, apply also intrinsically from the market because there are not many flights flying from Switzerland at this stage.
hmm And what about if you if people are gathering in more than five? Would there be stopped or fined or punished in any way, or
I
no?
believe they may be subject to a fine, but to be honest, I didn't go that much in details on what potentially may happen. I thought not to look into it as just because probably for me this would not be very realistic or let's say personal. problem, because I would probably not gather more than five in the next weeks. As also with my family, we are all anyway here in, let's say, out of quarantine home, so we don't really, it's also in our own interest not to meet people. At the end of the day, I think people should also be aware that the fact that they cannot go out is also for their own good, and to not to get sick and to suffer. So I think it's in our own interest to remain home.
Yeah, and can you see any big changes in your daily routine after these measures came into practice?
Well, definitely yes. As both my wife and myself work from home, so clearly that is quite challenging. Also considering that we have a small daughter, and babysitting working is not always super easy. So it probably takes a little bit more of self organization and cooperation as well between me and her. Uh, Overall, I would say, at the end is also a very good occasion for us to spend more time with our daughter and with ourselves. So, I mean, as everything, pros and cons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And can you tell, like, in general, do people in Switzerland trust the government that they will do the best they can, or are they still worried? What are
No,
the
I think generally people here probably, or at least as far as I could see, Switzerland is a very diversified country. Despite being, let's say, relatively small, it's still very diversified. So the, let's say, approach, also the kind of attitude from people may change depending on the region. Um, and in my region, at least, I think I still see people, let's say, quite optimistic. And of course, there is concern for the overall situation, especially on the impact on the economy, clearly, and of course also on their personal life. But I think overall there is still optimism and trust on the government and on the measures put in place so far.
Mhm. And in which parts of Switzerland are most cases of people infected with the coronavirus?
In my area. So I live strangely is the not exactly the area with the at the border with, let's say, with Italy, for example, where most of the people would have probably expected to see more cases. So I live in a region which is basically is quite extended, is on the lake of Le Mans, which is the Lake of Geneva, and basically that is the area with most cases within Switzerland. It's not the only area, but I think it's the one with most cases in terms of numbers.
Hmm. And do you think it's because a lot of foreigners are coming to Geneva compared to other parts of Switzerland, or because it just happened like that?
It's a good question. Quite honestly, I don't really know because, as I said, I also myself I would have expected to see more cases in the Italian part with a lot of commuters coming from Italy every day. I don't know. I think also probably is let's say even my region is quite on the border with Geneva and with France, for example, and is quite extended as well. So perhaps that didn't probably or attracted, let's say, a major number of people, and I guess also it's probably due to tourism. Because in the end, here in this region, there are, let's say, cities, for example, like Lausanne, it's quite close to the mountains, so perhaps people that went skiing stayed in this region as well. So I guess it's probably due to that.
Hmm. But even though there are the most cases in your region, are there any extra measures for your region, or is it same like countrywide?
No, it's exactly the same. So I mean, as I said, I think the measures have been, as I said, also respected by normal people without necessarily, impose stricter also police measures. Clearly, most of the shops are anyway closed. Let's say for personal decision as well, of course, to avoid the spreading of the disease. And but there are no additional measures which have applied here compared to other regions, I would say, or at least to my knowledge.
Okay, so thank you very much for telling me about the Swiss situation.
My pleasure, and I really hope that the things will get better everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I hope so too. So let's see what happens. Fingers crossed.
Fingers
Okay.
crossed, as usual.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Bye, you
Bye
all.
bye.
Bye bye.